Hey everybody. A couple weeks ago I did a video talking about this little Pentax 17 camera and its awesomeness. I really love it. And today I want to talk about how to get these cool looking half frame negatives into digital form. I use a digital camera scanning method because it's fast and easy. And I'm going to show you how to do that. Not in extreme detail, but it'll just give you a taste. I want to show you how long it takes to do 10 photos. I'm going to go through beginning to end 10 photos just so you can see why I like to use this digital camera scanning method. I use these for digital proofs. That's what they're for. They're my catalog of photos. I can look at the metadata that I enter and find photos from the past and say, oh, I want to do a larger print of this one or that one. So I use them just like proofs. And I also use them to share with family members. Oh, here's a cool photo or something like that. And the ones that I take photos of, the digital scanning method, these are the ones that I show inside a video like this one. So I saw a comment the other day from somebody who, they said, if you're going to use a digital camera to photograph the negatives, why don't you just take the digital camera and go and take the pictures with that to begin with? And that made me laugh because, yeah, every time I use this setup, it does seem silly. Here I am using a really nice digital camera to photograph grotty negatives and turn them into something that's nowhere near the quality of what that camera can produce when I could just take my Fujifilm cameras with the amazing lenses. At the end of the day, I want to do film. I want to be able to take the negatives and put them in the enlarger and produce a print that I can hold in my hands that wasn't printed on an inkjet printer. That's what it's all about. It's kind of like, you know, those guys that are really into vinyl records and they listen to them and they talk about all the great things about the analog audio. People who are audiophiles, they can debate that all day long. But even if you're not into vinyl records, you can recognize why people like that. Same thing here. You may not be into film, but you can see why. So let me get on with this. It should only take about 5 minutes from end to end to process 10 photos. I'm going to cut a little bit out because I'm not going to type in metadata like the names, and maybe if I were using different lenses or apertures or things like that, I would type that in. I'm going to skip that part, but everything else is going to be uncut. And you'll see the whole process end to end of scanning in the negatives and getting them ready until I have JPEGs that I can share. So let's get to it. I'm selecting a strip of negatives. These normally 5 negative strips, since they are half frame, there will be 10 shots on this strip. Clean it off with an anti-static cloth. And then I'm going to orient it so that the emulsion is facing the camera. It's going to result in everything being reversed, and we'll have to flip it when we get into Lightroom. Thread it through the negative holder and get everything aligned. Then I'm going to use the focus peaking feature to manually focus that macro lens. And that's nothing but a cheap Canon FD macro lens. You don't need anything better than that. Use a cable release so there's no vibration. And normally the long leader of the film would already be fed through those little wheels on the right side you see there. But here I'm manually moving the strip. And now it's long enough so I can get it through the drive wheels there. And you can see I'm turning the crank and pulling a frame through at a time. See how fast that is? You could do 72 shots in a matter of minutes. This is all going straight to my Mac. I have it tethered, and the photos are going to a selected directory. I'm done. Let's turn it off. Put the film away. Let's start working on the pictures. First thing I'm going to do is set the timestamps. I'm using a tool that I use that does this in batch mode. This saves me lots of hassles further down the road because Lightroom never forgets what the Fuji camera had as a timestamp. I'd rather have real timestamps that match when I took the photos. I'm going to also bulk rename them with a naming convention that has a date and a type of film and a roll number. Now I'm ready to go to Lightroom. It automatically imports the Fujifilm folder that I have set up. So we'll go to that import folder on the left. And we go to develop mode. We use the eyedropper to set the white balance based on the border. And then we crop. And I usually set it to 5:7 for these half frames. So I'm going to crop it to something nice. There we go. And now I synchronize that with all 10 of the others. With all 10 photos. And now I go through each one and I slide it over to get the cropping just right. And that happens just because when you're moving it in the negative holder, some of them are aligned a little bit to one side and others to the other. You don't want any border present because that's going to affect Negative Lab Pro when we make the conversion. Okay, we've done everything. Now let's flip over all the pictures, select them all, flip horizontal. Let's start Negative Lab Pro. We go to Develop, Control N, and it brings up Negative Lab Pro. And I'm just going to click Convert. I'll be bold. And it takes a few seconds for each photo. And they're done. And it does a pretty good job right out of the gate. I'm going to just apply, and we can go back for each one of these and manually tweak things on a one-by-one basis in Negative Lab Pro. So like this one, I'll go in and I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit and look in the top right and you'll see the histogram. We can make adjustments. And you can tweak to your heart's content. Now that I've got everything done and I've chosen some by putting ratings on them, I'll select those and I'll convert them to JPEG. This is using the conversion that Negative Lab Pro provides. Takes a few seconds. And now I've got JPEGs that I can post, share, or do whatever I want. And these are the JPEGs that I use when I show these images in my videos. This is a negative holder that Voloy sells for 35mm film. And you can see there's a little precision slot that the film fits in, and it's very well made. But they don't really have a good version of this for half frame. So rather than use theirs, I actually designed one to be 3D printed. And you can see it's got the little slot in there, and you just glue the halves together. The halves are identical. You print 2 of them. You got the little keys on there, and you glue them together. It takes a bit of fiddling and finishing, and you got to trim it and all of that, clean it up. You know, this is a little gap there, even though I glued it. Not a big deal. But at the end of the day, you want the film to pass smoothly through there. And it took a little bit of effort, but I was able to get it to smoothly slide through the slot there. And this does the job we need. Fits right inside the light source from Veloy. You could set it on top of any light source. You don't need to have their equipment. Their equipment's nice, but it's very expensive, and you really don't need it. I do like this little crank thing. It makes life so much easier. Again, it's not necessary. You'll see on the right side there, I have a little sticker with all the settings for the camera. You know, the ISO 200, the 1/60th of a second, the f8, and to lock the little ring on the lens. I want to make sure that this is foolproof. So there it is. We've got the 10 photos from the strip that I selected, scanned in and ready to go. And ready to go out there with this camera and shoot some more. So let me share just a couple of the photos. Here's a cool vase that my wife has. Didn't get the plant in the picture though. Here's a neat little perfume bottle. This is a nice flower I saw out in front of the YMCA. It was yellow. And here's a fire hydrant in front of the same YMCA. I love fire hydrants. Here's a cool looking window on a historic building at the park. Here's an anchor out in front of the park. It is a veterans park after all. Here's a neat looking fence in the very same park. And look at that, there's a mama deer. Her baby was over off to the side. And this is a piece of World Trade Center steel. Well, that's all I got for you today. Thank you for watching. Now go out and shoot a roll.